Hi everybody, welcome back to Flask Media. So today the plan is to build a web application using Python, specifically Flask. By the end of this video, we'll have an application up and running that looks something like this. Oh, sorry, not this, but this. Which doesn't look great right now, but we're just getting started, and I'll show you how you can customize it to look exactly how you like. The main goal for today is just to get most of the basics and heavy lifting out of the way, and then in following videos, we'll add more CSS, a contact form, slideshows, drop-down menus, and so on. By the end of this video, we will have created the Python environment. We'll install necessary pip3 packages for that environment. And pip3, in case you don't know, is the package manager for Python. We'll have all the directories and files created. And we'll also launch it on a server and test it out in a browser. After you confirm that everything is running as it should, we'll probably then wrap it up and continue in following videos. As most people find this the most intimidating part of the development process, we'll make sure to get out of the way in the first video. And then after that, we can kind of just kick back and relax and play around with the HTML and CSS. Most of which will just be copy and paste, at least all the code we'll be using today. And I'll show you exactly where I'm copying that from. And then I'll give a brief description of the code and how to modify it to suit your application. And maybe I'll just give you a really quick tour right now of what I hope to have done by the end of this video. And then after that, I'll completely delete the application from my system. So that way I'll be starting off fresh just like you. Then after all that, we'll jump in and start redeveloping the application. And then in future videos, we'll certainly add on to it and go from there. So what you're looking at right now is the home page. At the very top here, we have the header with a couple links to additional pages, such as services and contact. And you can, of course, call these whatever you want and add as many other pages as you'd like, which I'll show you how to do in a few minutes. And then below that, we have the feature section, which is typically called the hero section, I think. But I never really liked that name, so I just called it feature. But you can call it also too, whatever you like. And this part of the screen, including the header, will always be 100% of the screen's height and the screen's width. And maybe just to demonstrate that, I'll resize the window here. And then if I scroll down, you can see this part of the page will always go down to the bottom of the screen. So if I enlarge it again, make it full screen, same deal here too. And then below that, we have the content section. This will be where the specific content goes for this particular page. And then down at the bottom, we have the footer, which will always be at the bottom of the page, no matter the device's size and width. So it could be a smartphone, tablet, PC, whatever. The footer will always be at the very bottom of the page. And same goes for the header. The header will, of course, always be at the very top. And then when the user scrolls down the page, the content will just pretty much slide under the header. And at least that's the plan. And then we have the services page and contact. And there's a couple additional pages too that the user won't see until they try to submit a form. And maybe I'll show you those right now. So if I just say form passed, this is what the user will see if they submit a form and everything was submitted successfully. And then in case that didn't happen, they'll see this page right here. And these pages are going to be a little bit different because they're not really going to have a content section, because really all they need to do is provide a line or two for the user to indicate whether the form was submitted successfully or not. Which we can, these pages won't be very complicated at all. But we can definitely add, say, a picture like a big giant check mark or something like that, or maybe an X in case it failed. But we'll definitely play around with that when we get to it. So that's pretty much what I hope to have done by the end of this video. And if you're watching this video, that did happen. So let's do that. So I think I'm going to start by just deleting this application altogether from my machine. And then I'll just start to rebuild it from scratch, just as you would be. So to do that, I'm just going to close it off and go over to the terminal here. And this is the Flask server that was running the application. And as you can see, there's a bunch of status codes here, which come in really handy if there are errors that occur. We'll be able to identify them really quick and then just correct them from the messages that we get right here. But for now, I'm just going to hit Control C to cancel it, and that should shut it down. And I'll clear my screen. And then I'm going to want to deactivate it before I delete it. So I'm just going to go into the bin directory and say deactivate. Like so. And as you can see, it no longer says Flask App on the left side of my prompt, which indicates to me that now that anything I do will be on the host system instead of the environment that I was previously in. And yeah, making these environments is really nice just for that reason, because anything we do inside of them, you can be rest assured that if something goes wrong, it's not going to affect your host system, that it'll be contained within the environment itself. But for now, I think I'm just going to get rid of this guy. So if I go back into my home directory in LS, there's the application right there. So to get rid of it, I'm just going to say rm-r and then Flask App. And now it's gone. So now we can start off nice and fresh. And I'll head back to the website. And here's a little bit of information about the application we're going to be creating. I'm just going to name mine Flask App, Frameworks Flask, Development Server that I just showed you was Flask. And then once we're all done with the application, we'll switch over to a production server called Waitress. And the reason I'm using Waitress is because it's cross-platform. And we can also specify too exactly how many threads we want the application to use or utilize, which will certainly speed up the application quite a bit. Whereas Flask, I believe it only runs on maybe 1 or 2 threads. Actually, I think it's just single threaded. So with Waitress, if you say you want to use 8 threads, 16, 24, however many, that will significantly improve its performance. And then for the form, we'll be using PHP to send the form data, and then we'll use Python to validate it. For the reverse proxy, we'll use Nginx, which will also help protect the application and the server it's running on. And then for SEO, we'll just create some JSON structured data, which oddly enough, I find a lot of people skip this step as they rely on a third party to do this for them. But it's certainly easy enough to do for yourself. And all we have to do is write a little bit of JSON code, throw in the head section of the HTML, and we're done. And then the pages we'll be creating today will be home, services, and contact. But you can also too modify this to suit your application very easily. Add as many pages as you like, call them whatever you like, and I'll definitely describe that when we get to it. But for now, I'm just going to scroll down here for some more detailed instructions. And right here, we have a bit of a roadmap, or you can think of it like a checklist. So I'm just going to go through each one of these steps one by one until we get to where we want to be. And it looks like a lot, but I think you're going to be surprised at how fast we go through these steps, as most of them are just entering a line or two in the terminal, hitting enter and just letting it do it for you. And yeah, to demonstrate that, maybe let's click on Create Python Environment. And then scroll down. So the first thing we're going to have to do is update the system, and then we'll install Python 3 pip, and that'll be the package manager for Python that we'll use to install all our packages with. And then we'll also install venv, which will be the virtual environment manager. And after we've done that, we can create the environment, activate it, install our packages, and we'll be good to go. So what I'm going to do is just copy this command right here to install pip. Right after I update my machine. So I'll say sudo apt update. Oh, 67 packages. I think I'll deal with that later though. I'm not too concerned about it right now. I'll just paste that in there without the D and hit enter. And as you can see, I already had pip installed. If that wasn't the case for you, you'll be seeing a lot of text, and that's completely normal. As long as you don't get any errors, you should be good. So now that we have pip installed, we just need to install venv, and we can do that with this command right here. So I'll copy that and go back to the terminal, paste that in, hit enter. And like pip, I already had that installed. But now we should be good to install our packages. Or at least create the environment, sorry. which we can do with this command right here. All we'll have to do is substitute name of environment to whatever you want to name your application. So I'll copy that, go back to the terminal, and paste that in there. And yeah, I think I'm just going to call it Flask App. You can, of course, call it whatever you like. And then I'll hit enter. And ls. And there it is right there. So I'm just going to cd into it. And as you can see, there's already some directories and files created for us, which we'll utilize fairly shortly here. I'll go back to the instructions. And we've already cd'd into the environment. So all we have to do is run this to activate it. So I'll copy that. And go back to the terminal, paste, enter. And as you can see, to the left of my prompt, it now says Flask App, which is the name we gave the application. So now we know that anything or any Python package that we install within this environment will only affect the environment itself. And our host system will be safe in case anything goes wrong or whatever. But not that that will be the case, but just in case. So I'll clear this. And I think now we're just going to install the packages. And yep, that is the case, which we can do with this big long command right here. So I'll just copy that. And what this will do is it will install Flask, Flask Mail, SQL Alchemy for any database handling later on. And then we have Flask WTF for some form handling, the Waitress production server that I mentioned earlier, DNS Python to resolve DNS, and then email validator, which will help validate the data that we send in a form and redirect it to a specific email address. So yeah, to do that, I'm just going to copy this, go back to the terminal. Actually, before I run that, I'm just going to run pip3 list, and we can have a look at the current pip packages that are installed with this environment. Yeah, and there we go. We got pip, package resources, setup tools, and I'll paste that in there so we can add some more. And then enter. And this shouldn't take long. These usually install pretty quick. And there we go. So now if I say pip3 list, yeah, you can see we have some additional packages added there. And if you're wondering why there's some extra ones thrown in there, like this green lit one and IDNA and so on, I think those are just dependencies of the packages that we specified to install. So if you're seeing a bunch of extra stuff in your pip3 list, don't worry about it. They're supposed to be there. Yeah, I think we're definitely getting somewhere. So now we're done with pip. All our packages are installed, our environment's created, it's activated. Next up, we're going to be creating some directories and files. So I'll click on that. And the first thing we're going to do is create some root files. So main.py, which will be the main Python file that does most of the heavy lifting for the application. And then forms.py will handle our forms. And then contact form PHP. I think we'll modify in a future tutorial, but that will send the data that we submit in a form to a specific email address. And for now, I'm just going to copy this and we can create those files within the root directory of the application. So I'll just paste that in there, hit enter, and now ls. There they all are right there. So we contact form, forms, and main.py. And go back to the instructions, scroll down. And now we're going to create the root directories. So this will include templates and static. Templates will hold all of our HTML files, and static will hold pretty much everything else. So this will include audio, video, all our styles, all our CSS sheets, stuff like that. So yeah, templates for HTML and static for pretty much everything else. So I'll make sure I copied that. Go back to the terminal, paste. and enter. Now if ls, there they are right there. Static and templates. And go back here. And then we're going to create some static directories. So after we cd into the static directory that was just created, we're going to run this command. Copy that. And it will create these directories for us. So CSS is obviously where we're going to put all our CSS files. This will include styles, animations, and queries. Queries are going to dictate where all the containers go when the screen size gets to adjust for screen size. So say if we start the application off by designing it for a desktop, we'll then use the queries file to specify exactly where containers go and stuff when the screen gets smaller. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to copy this and go back to the terminal. And we're going to want to copy these inside of the static directory right here. So we'll cd into that first. So I'll just cd into static. And ls, there's nothing there right now. That's about to change. So I'll just paste that command in, hit enter. And now if we ls, there's all the directories right there. So any audio with it we need, we can put in here. Same with video. CSS goes in here. Fonts we'll use to point to where we have our fonts installed. And images are, of course, for images. So I'll go back to the instructions. And after that, you can use this command to create a symlink. So this comes in really handy, say, if you want to host files that are not located within the directory of the current application. Say if you have a lot of large MIDI files that you don't want to copy into the directory of the application itself, you can point this directory to a hard drive, I say like a remote hard drive, that may host all these files for you. That's not really necessary for what I'm doing today. But in case you did want to go that route, that's the route you would take. And I have done that quite often. I know a lot of hosting companies are really picky about that kind of stuff. So this is a way to get around that. Because they don't want the user to execute files that are not on the server. I guess for security reasons and whatnot, and that makes a lot of sense. But in case you're hosting this locally on your own machine, you could use that command right there to set up a symlink to link certain files or whatever to a hard drive. And that command right here, this part of it anyways, is the path to the actual drive that you want to grab files from. And then right here creates the directory called storage inside of the static directory that we just created. So every time you reference this directory storage, it will be linked to this drive right here. But certainly not required by this application. But yeah, in case you want to do that, that's how. So I'm just going to scroll down here. And now we need to create the required CSS files, such as styles.css, queries and animations, and fonts.css. Styles will, of course, be for our styles, how everything looks. Queries I briefly described earlier will just direct where all the containers go on the page when the screen size gets smaller or larger, whatever it may be. Animations, fairly self-explanatory. That way you can say drop down containers or move containers around when the page is loading. Kind of makes it look fancy. And then fonts.css will just point to where our fonts are. So I'm just going to copy this command right here. And make sure to cd into the static directory the CSS directory inside the static directory, and then run this command. So I'm just going to make sure that's copied. And when I want to do cd into static, and then CSS, enter. We're already in static. So cd into CSS. And paste that in there. Static CSS, yep, hit enter. And now if ls, there they are right there. So I'll go back here. and then HTML templates. And that's it for our files and directories. So what we're going to want to do here is just cd into the templates directory and then run this command right here. Copy. And that will take or create our layout HTML, index HTML, services, contact, form error, form passed. And then after we create those files, all we have to do is open them each one up in a text editor and copy and paste the code that I'm about to show you into each one. And then test it out. And we'll start up the server and see if we can see it in a browser. But for now, I'll just copy this, go back to the terminal, and paste that in there. Or no, sorry, go back into static. That wouldn't have been good at all. What am I doing here? I got to go back into Flask App and then cd into templates. And there we go. Now I can paste this command in. And I'll create layout, index, services, contact, form error, form passed. And enter. And now ls. Yeah, there they all are right there. Well, let's see what's next. And that does it for our files and directories. So next up, we have example docs. We can just go through each one of these. So we got main.py, layout, index, style, services, contact, and so on. And we can just copy and paste this code directly into those files, save them, and we should be done, at least for this video. So to do that, I think I'm actually going to just use a normal text editor, a little bit easier to see than using it in the terminal. This is a virtual machine. I don't even think I have Vim installed on it. So yeah, I think I'm just going to open up maybe a mouse pad or something and do that. So I think the easiest way to do this is just to open up all the files from here and say something like mousepad, and then we'll copy and paste the content for those files from the website. Keep our fingers crossed and try to launch the server. As you can see, I already have a couple image files in here. One for the fav icon, which is the little icon beside the name in the tab, and then one for the logo. But yeah, let's do that. So I'll open this up. And this would be our environment that we just created. So I guess I'll start off maybe with main.py. So I'll just right click on that, open mousepad, and then go to the website and copy these contents right here from main.py. Like so. And as you can see, the production server down here at the bottom has been commented out. So we'll be using the development server right here. And I'm just going to right click on that, select copy, make sure I got it all. Looks good. So then I'll go back to the mouse pad here, right click, paste, and that should take care of main.py. And maybe I'll just get it running first. Actually, maybe I'll just explain it a little bit now. So right up here at the top, we're going to be importing all the modules. Right here, we'll be creating the application interface itself. Then right here are where all our paths are going to be. So if you want to add additional pages later on, all you have to do is add a path, create the HTML document, throw in templates, and you're good. And then right here is where we're going to start the application with the server. So now that we have all that in there, I'm just going to save it. And that takes care of main.py. And maybe let's make sure I did save that. Yep. So I'll close this. And that should be good. So now I'll open Forms in Mousepad. Go to the website. And scroll down a bit. And here's Forms right here. So I'm just going to copy all this. Right click, copy. Go back to Mousepad. Paste it in. And save it. Double check, make sure it's saved. Yeah. And then I'll close it off. And so we've done main.py, forms.py, contact form. Maybe I'll deal with later. Let's just get our templates done, and then our CSS, and then we'll try to launch the server. So I think I'll start with, I guess, index. Open the mouse pad. Actually, I think I'll just go from right to left. Contact. Go back to the website. And maybe go back here because we're all done with the Python documents. So now we can just click on example documents and go to HTML. And we want contact. So I'm just going to copy all this. And actually, I'm not going to include the form right now. We can worry about that later. But when we do want to add the form, we can just come back here and copy and paste it right from here. Right, just make sure we got all of that. Actually, maybe I'll just explain a little bit about it first. So right here we have extends HTML, or sorry, extends layout HTML. So any content that we add in here will just be appended to HTML, or sorry, layout HTML. And actually, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's just keep continue by copy and pasting, and then we'll just see if it runs. And then I'll explain a little bit more about what it's doing. So copy, go back to mouse pad, and this is contact HTML. So I'll just paste that in there and save it. Yep, that's saved. So we're done with contact. And then I'll open up form error. So I'll open up the mouse pad. Go back here and go to the top of the page and form error and copy and paste all this. So copy, paste, and this is for form error. And then save. And then exit. And then next up we have form passed. And go back here, top of the page, form passed, and then copy all this. And go back to mouse pad, paste, and that should take care of form passed. And then save it. And make sure it's saved. Looks good. And I'll close it off. And now we have index. Open up a mouse pad. Go back to the website. Page top. Click on index. Probably should have started with layout and then index, but this will work. Because we need to copy and paste all this before we run it anyway, so it doesn't really matter what order we do it in. So we'll copy all that. And that's for index HTML. I'll go back to file manager, index HTML, paste, and then save. And we're good. So now layout, website, page top, layout. And this is the main HTML file right here. So actually, maybe if I scroll down a bit here, I'll explain a little bit. So right here where it says block head, this is in the head section of the HTML. So anything we put on other pages, we can just use these same tags, block head, and that will be appended. Anything that we put inside of there will be appended into this section of the layout HTML. Sorry, I'll explain this in greater detail later. I just want to copy and paste all this stuff and make sure it works. So copy. And this is the main HTML page right here is layout. Everything just extends from here. Make sure I copy that. Go back to the file manager. We're in layout HTML. I'll paste that in there and make sure everything copied okay. Looks good. So I'll save it. Double check. Looks good. I'll close it off. And one more to go. So we just got services. Open that up. Go back to the website. Page top. Services. Copy all this. Go back to mouse pad. Actually, I'll make sure that's services. Yep. Services. Paste. Looks good. So I'll save it. And that takes care of HTML. So I'll close that off. And then I'll go back. So we've already done these. Contact, forms and main. Templates are done. All we have left to do is static. So I'll open that up. And audio, fonts, images, video, we don't have to worry about right now. All we need to deal with is CSS. Animations we don't need to worry about. Same with fonts. We can do that another day. Same with queries. All we have to do is edit styles. So I'll right click on that, open mouse pad. And this is styles. Go back to the website. We're all done with HTML. So I'll go back and go back another one. Should be able to go to examples. Scroll down to CSS right here. And we just want styles. So I'll click on style CSS. And then we're going to copy and paste all this. And this will just get the application to look how we originally first saw it when we started the video. So I'm just going to copy all this. And I'll certainly explain all this in greater detail later on too. So copy that. Mouse pad, paste. And that takes care of styles.css. So I'll just save this. Make sure that's saved. Looks good. Okay, I think we're ready to give this a test run now. We've copied and pasted all the code that we need. I'm just trying to think of what I could be missing here. No, I think we're good. So go back to maybe the browser. And then once we get running, or once we launch the server, we'll come back here, open another tab. We'll navigate to localhost port 5000, which will be indicated in main. And actually, maybe I'll just show you that really quick. So if we go back to examples, let's see what we got here, main.py. And then if we scroll down to where the server starts, right here, we're going to be using localhost port 5000. So that's where you navigate in your browser after we launch the server, provided everything starts up and runs okay. Okay, so let's test that out. My heart rate is kind of going again. I sure hope this works. I try to get all these done in one take because I find I lose a little bit of video quality whenever I edit them. So it's always nice to get it all done in one shot. But I'll just clear the screen. And go back here. Actually, just one directory is good. Flask App. Okay, and then to run it, all we have to do is say Python 3 main.py. Hit enter. And that's a really good sign. Thank God. Okay, as you can see at the top, this is a development server. Do not use in a production development, which we're not. When we're all done developing the application, we're going to switch over to the waitress server. And use a production server instead, which is exactly the plan. Yeah, so far so good. And it's telling us to that the application is running on port 5000. So we're just going to go back to the browser, open another tab. type in localhost with a colon and then 5,000. Hit enter. And there we go. Phew, that's a relief. See it? There we go. It looks exactly like it did before. We got the services, contact. Maybe you can just check out form passed. Hit enter. Yeah, and there we go. Let's try form error. Hit enter. And there we go. So the only thing that's missing right now is the icon, but we can quickly change that. But everything else looks good. Maybe I'll try to resize the window. And go back to maybe the home page. Scroll down. And one thing you may notice too, if we resize the window here, keep going. I notice how stuff gets messed up. That's just because we haven't written the CSS media queries yet. And after we do that, we can dictate to the application where the containers go and stuff when the screen gets smaller. And we can certainly fix that. So if you see stuff like this, don't worry about it. It's just because we haven't done the queries.css yet. But we'll certainly get to that maybe in the next video or the one after that. And yeah, I think what I'll do now maybe is just add this form or add this icon right here. So where we'd find that would be in the layout page. So if we go back to, say, our file manager right here, and static. I haven't used a file manager in so long. I'm so used to the terminal. This is weird. Go to images. We don't have any images in there yet. But like you saw in my home folder before, I think, I have some in there. So I think what I'll do is just open up another file manager here. And there they are right there. So I'm just going to copy and paste those guys in. So copy, paste. And that should take care of the logos and the fav icon. As far as the fav icon goes, I wouldn't go any larger than, say, 200 pixels because it does shrink it down quite a bit. And that'll slow down the application if it has to shrink down a huge image into that little tiny fav icon. And the logo, it just depends on how big the logo is on your application when you design it as to how large you want to make this image. But yeah, now that those are in there, if we come back to the browser here and refresh it, there they are right there. So this is the fav icon right here, that little icon that's beside the tab. And this was the logo right here. And yeah, I think we're definitely where we want to be for this first video in the Flask series. So hopefully, if you guys have any problems with copying and pasting all that stuff or getting any errors, please just let me know in the comments. And I'll try to troubleshoot it for you. Because chances are I'll know what the solution is pretty quick. Because I've run into that problems more times than I can count. But yeah, I think this puts a good dent in the Flask series. So like I mentioned earlier, we still have a ways to go. But all the hard stuff is out of the way. If you guys have any ideas on what you'd like to see when we proceed, please just let me know and I'll try to include those changes in the next video. If you're a bit confused, I'll try to answer any questions the best I can. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. And I really appreciate the positive comments. I've learned from the not so positive ones. And I definitely think I lucked out on my audience. But on that note, yeah, thanks again for watching. And hope to see you on the next one. Bye for now.